Well, there's nothing like a bit of technical trouble to give you a heart attack when you're trying to get a slow chat started at 8 p.m. on a Thursday night. Guys, it is wonderful, wonderful, wonderful. I've got to say, this is a man. We have a guest tonight that honestly, why didn't I interview him a long time ago? Those of you familiar with my work on the Murray Darling Basin, you'll be familiar with Professor Peter Gell because I refer to his work, the incredible studies that he's done, and not only the incredible studies, the quality of the work, but the courage to stand up against the zeitgeist, the politicization of environmental sciences, and to just say, no, hang on, this is what the data says. This is what the data tells me. And to stand by that is such a rare thing. It shouldn't be, but it is. So those of you familiar with my work on the Murray Darling Basin, you're already familiar at least with some of what Professor Peter Gell has done. Those of you that aren't, you're in for a treat. It's going to be an absolute hoot. Now, before I do get started, and I'm not going to be a long introduction today, but I do want to mention the Battleground Melbourne premiere tickets are more than halfway sold out. So if it was your plan to be there with me, with Rukshan and a whole bunch of others who are going to be there on the night in Camberwell. So we're going to be at the Rivoli Cinemas in Camberwell on the 23rd of August. I'm just going to drop the link in. It should show up. That's not going to work for you guys. That's my link. Sorry. Let me let me correct my own error there. Speaking of technical troubles, let me just go and add to them, shall I? All right, let me drop them in there. Okay, so if the link you click on doesn't work, that was my fault. Try the next link down that I've just posted. If you want to grab some tickets, there's less than 200 left. There were over 450. They're more than halfway sold. Get in while you can. If you miss out on the premiere or if the Camberwell location is no good for you, we're touring all over Melbourne and touring around as much of Victoria as we can get to. We've got a lot of cinemas saying they're not willing to show Battleground Melbourne. There's a lot of sort of quiet in the background censorship going on tech platforms as well as in the real world. But if you go to topherfield.net, that's my blog, topherfield.net, you'll find a pinned blog post at the top there. It has the full schedule and all the links for the tickets to all of our locations. We're going to Albury and Shepparton. We're going down to Gippsland. We're going out into the west as much as we can. The west, unfortunately, we haven't actually found a cinema in Ballarat, Bendigo, Horsham. Actually, I think we might be going to Horsham. I think we did find somewhere there. But we've had a lot of towns that have said no to us. So anyway, check the links for the ticket link to the premiere. If you want to be there, it's going to be an incredible night. And otherwise, topherfield.net, there is a pinned blog post at the top. It's got the full schedule. It's got all the links. Okay, done. We've got that out of the way. Now, my guest tonight, Professor Peter Gell, a man that I have immense respect for. I've been following his work since 2012. His work goes back well before then and spans a far greater breadth than what I've paid attention to. So I'm going to learn tonight. I'm going to sit and get schooled tonight, and I cannot wait. And in fact, why wait? Let me introduce to you none other than Professor Peter Gell. Professor, how are you?
I'm well now that we've settled down on the IT, Topher.
Look, the IT challenges always give you a heart attack. It's just part and parcel with the territory. And look, you've been very gracious. You've switched at the last minute from your computer to your phone. I do appreciate that. Just do let me know if you're about to run out of batteries.
No, I've just charged it actually, so it should be right for the session. So
excellent.
Let's go. I know I've actually just recently got a new desktop system, and it's not fully tuned up, you might say. So. Anyway, the phone is.
Well, it was quite funny. We were on the phone in the minutes that we were supposed to have been starting, trying to troubleshoot and figure it out. And you were saying to me, you've never had trouble with Microsoft Teams. You've never had trouble with Zoom or any of those. And I was saying to you that the reason I use StreamYard, which is a platform that I use, is because I've never had trouble with StreamYard. So somehow, with neither of us ever having trouble, we've managed to have trouble today.
I found a first for you. There you go.
Yeah, there you go. Look, I want to go back well before I came across your work, well before the Murray Darling Basin stuff, the Murray Darling Basin Plan, the Water Act of 2007, etc. I'd love to start by saying what possesses somebody to get into what is your official specialty? Marine, not biologist, a marine ecologist?
No, I'm not marine ecologist. I'm actually what's called a paleoecologist. So it's a blend of the word paleontology with ecology.
Right. Yeah.
And
okay.
I don't look at big bones. I look at microfossils.
Yeah.
So the fossils I tend to look at, I was looking at some today, up to 100 microns long.
Yeah,
as a
right.
specimen. So that means if you put 10 of those end to end, that's a millimeter.
So I've never met somebody. I've never met a 8-year-old boy who's putting posters of microfossils on his wall. I've never met a 16-year-old boy who's saying to me, "I was going to be an Air Force pilot, but now I think I'm going to be a paleooncologist?
Paleoecologist.
Not an oncologist. What am I saying? Paleooncologist.
No.
Oh goodness.
Medical oncologist, I think. Anyway.
Take me back in time, Peter. Why did you decide to even get into this in the first place?
Well, I was originally, right back to childhood, I was most interested in frogs, as lots of kids are. But
can I pause you there? Your microphone's coming through really broken up. Have you got something plugged in, or are you just using the phone?
I'm just using the phone, yeah.
Oh, okay. It's actually coming through really broken up. Can you try plugging that mic in, the one that you mentioned to me before? Will that plug into that phone? Might be the wrong kind of plug.
Maybe if I shift location.
It's just...
time to find somewhere. That little border with my offices has been difficult.
No, because your video's coming through really well.
But I'll change rooms.
Yeah, your video's coming through really well. No, look, I don't think that's going to make a difference. Look, sit down, settle down wherever you're going to be most comfortable. Your video's coming through well. I don't think it's a connection issue. I think there's just something with the hardware there, but that's okay. I would much rather hear listen to what you've got to say with a bad microphone than not at all. So, yeah, sorry, but
original base.
Yeah, do that. Make yourself nice and comfortable because we might be here for a while.
Right.
All right. Anyway, sorry. Continue.
So, yes, I was originally in my very much younger days, interested in frogs and tadpoles and those sorts of things, but that's it probably includes lots of young lads. But I became interested in birds, and that progressed through to my university days. In fact, my honours project was on birds in the dry land of Victoria.
All right.
Then I was most interested in issues around fire and government interest in fuel reduction, burning, and these sorts of things. So I did my master's on vegetation history in the Errinundra Plateau in Victoria, which was in the midst of the Great Forest debate in the 80s.
Yeah.
And I was a fantastic forest, and I was most interested in continuing that study. And that was about paleoecology, but it was about the last 1,000 years of vegetation history. But my good friend Patrick de Decker from the ANU invited out Professor Françoise Gass from France. And she came out because the French were having difficulties in Africa. She wanted to start doing some research in Australia. And she was looking for somebody to train up in the diatom world. And diatoms are single-celled algae that have a glass skeleton, and therefore they preserve in sediments.
Yep.
And so they very amenable to the same sort of long-term ecological history sort of work that I was doing with the forests.
Yep.
And effectively, I was invited by one of the lead people in the world to go to Paris to study diatoms. And of course, I was very passionate about the forests. And a very learned senior academic sat me down one day and said, "You do realise you must take this opportunity up because
Peter,
you don't get an opportunity like that very often."
Peter, I'm gonna pause you there. I've just got multiple different comments coming through from different people, just saying that they're trying to listen but they can't really understand, and your audio's not coming through. Can we just try one last ditch thing? Would you be kind enough to log out and try logging back in again? And let's just
on the phone.
Let's just see if that's going to help with the audio quality, because at the moment it really does take a lot of concentration to be able to understand what you're saying.
Okay. Yes. Okay.
Well, what I might do, I'll kick you out of the studio. Oh no, there we go. He's found it. I'll kick from studio. Kick the guest. There we go. Okay, so Yeah, look, guys, I'm sorry, but this is just the reality of when you've got busy people, myself and Professor Gell included. We jumped on only about 15 minutes before the show. I couldn't get Peter's computer to connect as much as I tried. And then we troubleshot that on the phone for about 10 minutes and then finally gave up. And then he switched to his phone, which is, excuse me, what you could see there. And unfortunately, for whatever reason, he's just using the microphone in his phone, like he said. And the sound is yeah, you're right. It's coming through. I think Brian says it best. I can understand him. He just sounds like a Dalek. Yeah, that unfortunately is how it sounds. Doug says I'm Scottish and I understand everything. Topher was clear. Professor was garbled. Yeah, look, he's logging back in now. Let's just cross our fingers. Cross our fingers and hope for the best. All right, Peter, let's give this another go.
I'm hoping that's a bit better.
That is much better.
Okay.
That's a big improvement.
Well,
all right.
That's just
okay.
The unexplainable within the IT world.
Yes. Lloyd says, and Lloyd's a good guy, actually. Lloyd Polkinghorn, if you don't know him, he ran a newspaper along the Murray River there for a while. I believe recently stepped down from that, but the MDBA might have pushed the big red button. Maybe they're trying to shut down your audio there, Professor Gell. Okay, let's go back to this because you were offered this opportunity to be studying these diatoms.
I was offered an opportunity to work with Francois Gas in Paris at Université de Paris Sud, and my passion was to go and do my PhD in the forests. And then Don Adamson it was who sat me down and said, of course, this is an opportunity you shouldn't refuse. And he was a very well-esteemed member of my scientific community, and I just realised that, yes, quite, okay. So I needed to do a few things in 1988, but it was in late 1989 that I set off for Paris and became a student of both French and diatoms in France. And from there, met the whole diatom world because there were barely a handful of people working on diatoms in Australia, but there were laboratories full of people doing fantastic projects in the Northern Hemisphere.
Pause. What's a diatom and why would anyone study them? What can we learn from them?
So my work in the forests of Gippsland, I was using as an indicator of vegetation change, fossil pollen. So a gum tree produces beautiful little triangular shaped pollen grains that fly around in the wind and land in a swamp and are preserved. And if you take a sediment core, which is basically a history timeline, you can subsample the sediments, identify and count the pollen grains, and you can see what the vegetation used to be like at various times in the past.
Okay.
Diatoms are fossil algae. They're benign algae, highly productive and useful in aquatic food webs. And they have a glass skeleton, which is highly decorated and identifiable to species. And different species do different quality.
Okay, we are definitely having connection issues now. The audio issues are better. The internet connection is patchy at best. All right. So could I prevail upon you, please? I'm so sorry. This is just this doesn't normally happen. But could you perhaps see if another part of the house is going to give you a better connection? Is that possible? Yeah, I think the professor might be having trouble hearing me as well. Okay, he's moving. Okay, he's got the request. All right. I'm so sorry, everyone watching. I promise you, Professor Gell is well worth the trouble. I promise you. If we can't make this work, then we're going to troubleshoot the technology, and I will get him on again on another day. I am going to interview Professor Peter Gell, whether it's today or another day. But let's hope that we can get some slightly better internet in another location. All right. You let me know when you're settled, Professor. All right. Goodness, how big is his house? He's walking for half an hour. I should get into studying diatoms. One day I'll have a house as big as his. All right. Professor, I'm sorry to do this to you, to make you move after you're all comfortable. All right. I'm not hearing you, Professor. Have you muted your microphone or covered the microphone or something? You there? I can see you. The image is great. Have you turned off the microphone? Goodness me. Unfortunately, it's just been one thing after another today. I can see that you're talking. I can't hear you. I think it's something in your phone. I think you've muted something in your phone or turned something down. All right. Now, this is a good question from Bruno. Is someone else in your house using the internet as well? That could be chewing up bandwidth. Guys, I'm really sorry. Honestly, this man and the mind of this man, you want to hear what he's got to say. You want to learn from him. I want to learn from him. I'm looking forward to this. So I'm so sorry. Well, Peter says, another Peter, and he's a professor, makes me feel good that most Peters are saints. Next week, I've got Professor Peter Ridd. I kid you not. Another Peter, another professor, another absolutely fantastic scientist in the same caliber as Professor Peter Gell. Guys, okay, what I'm going to do, I'm going to kick Professor Gell again and just force him to have to log back in. And just fingers crossed that we can get this right because he's worth listening to. These are the joys. Someone earlier made a guy. Here it is. Pendulum says, "Thanks, Malcolm Turnbull, you goober." The NBN. Guys, this is unfortunately one of the joys of doing what I do. This hasn't actually happened to me before this badly. Unfortunately, this is the most challenging connection issue that we've had in a slow chat to date. So I am going to persist a little bit longer. I assure you, Professor Gell is worth the wait. And hopefully, fingers crossed, he's going to try and log back in one more time. Otherwise, if he doesn't, he might call me and we might have a quick chat just to try and sort things out. But look, while we're here, I want to talk a little bit of strategy with you guys, particularly for the Victorian election coming up. The number one thing that we need to do in Victoria is to get people to watch Battleground Melbourne. And the good news is it's free to watch at battlegroundmelbourne.com. I'm just going to go www.battlegroundmelbourne.com. The link is in all of the platforms. Wherever you're watching, the link is there. That is the number one thing that you can do to help me and to help the election is to get people to watch Battleground Melbourne. It is available to watch for free. Peter, how you doing? Are we in luck?
I'm doing okay. How are you?
Okay. I'm hearing you a little
bit. 3G.
Look, that might be the way to go. I've actually got I'm actually getting you better now than I was for a little while there. So
yeah.
You know what? Let's just run with this.
Push on.
Let's push on 100%. I could not agree with you more. Anne makes a good point. They had a better connection speaking to the Apollo crew on the moon from Earth in 1969. They certainly did. Daniel Andrews Jr., welcome. Please go and kick your dad in the nuts for me, would you? Okay.
Yeah.
I'm sorry, where were we?
I would go outside to get a better reception, but it's Ballarat, and it's down to about 1 degree already. So
yes, it's freezing. Okay, where were we? I do apologise, but I've lost track of where we were up to.
So I was basically inspired to go to France, where
that's right,
learned diatoms, and I was in and amongst a number of specialists, in particular on diatoms in salty situations. So my specialism is looking at climate and human impacts on salinity as inferred by long records of diatoms, which can tell us about salinity in the past and the present.
Okay.
Yeah, so that was a good year or two. I actually, during that time, I was recruited to a project by the French on the sediment sequence from the 16th century under the Louvre Museum as
Oh,
well,
wow.
which is an
Wow.
exciting project. There's a big, huge archaeological excavation and study done, and it's come out as a huge coffee table volume.
Well, okay. Without wanting to raise the specter of racist stereotypes, the French are notoriously Francophiles. They love themselves and they love each other. Why would they have chosen an Australian to do such an important study under the Louvre Museum, no less?
Oh, well, I was in the laboratory at the time, and there was this opportunity came up, and I was sufficiently skilled in diatoms to undertake the study. So it was a short-term analysis for 2 or 3 months, but I was in the laboratory at the time, and
Right place, right time.
Keep me for a while longer. So I said, "Yeah, that sounds interesting." But I did feel I was stepping on toes, being a young, brash Australian doing one of the most significant studies in France.
I suspect you probably were stepping on toes. Now, you made mention of salinity, that you can learn from the diatoms the history of salinity. Why does that matter? Why would we want to know? And this, I'm obviously leading towards where we're going, but why would you want to know about the history of salinity in a given body of water? Why would that be relevant?
Well, my initial interest was to look at salinisation in the Murray Darling Basin.
Okay.
So through my
So
undergraduate,
so hang on, sorry. Right from the get-go, the Murray Darling Basin was actually on your mind.
yes, I had a master's course I did in soils, and one of the field trips we did was to Coorong, and looking at the issues at Coorong in terms of rising groundwater.
Yes.
And I always knew that there was going to be a human driver to that, but also a climate driver. So my interest was to try and separate the influence of climate and deforestation, land clearance on the changes we were seeing in the 70s, in particular in the basin in and around Coorong or Swan Hill.
Yes. Okay. And sorry, is that because you grew up there? Why were you so acutely aware of those issues?
Well, I was doing a Master of Environmental Science, and that was one of the main issues I was looking at.
Okay.
General interest in human impact on the environment. I was seeing salinity as being a major threat to lots of ecosystems.
And sorry, you're breaking up again. So
wanted to see how the law record can contribute to that understanding, I guess.
Okay. We got most of that, I think. I mean, salinity, the data does show us rising water tables, and the salinity that comes with that was a big problem in the 1970s and 80s. And that was one of the driving factors that was named in the Water Act of 2000. Oh, sorry, the Murray Darling Basin Plan of 2012 that was based on the Water Act of 2007 for why they had to act. We'll get into the weeds on all of that a little bit later on. So from France, what brought you back to Australia, and what did you go into after that? We seem to be having connection. Oh, here we go. I've lost your audio again, Peter. I'm sorry, mate, but I've lost your audio again. I'm so sorry, mate. I don't know what's going on. This hasn't happened before, and I am desperately keen to hear what you've got to say, and I literally can't hear you at all. Okay, Professor, I think what I'm going to have to do is postpone, possibly till 2 Thursdays' time, if you'd be willing to give us your time then. Because if this is going to persist, we need to find out what's going on, figure out how to fix it. I can see that you just said something then. I cannot hear a word. I don't know what's going on. So you and I need to have a chat during this week. We've got each other's phone numbers. So how about I call you tomorrow? We'll sort out this audio issue. Maybe sort out the internet issue. If you're only in Ballarat, mate, I would come over and interview you in person just to actually make this happen, because I'm incredibly keen to do this. But unfortunately, it just seems like the internet is determined to make sure that this isn't going to happen. Try once more time. No, I can't. I'm not getting any audio at all. I'm not getting a single thing. Okay, so Aaron is suggesting do it on another platform. If I don't do it on StreamYard, I can't push it out I can't push it out onto all the different platforms and pages and everything else. Okay, Professor, I'm so sorry. We're going to have to call it because if this is going to keep happening, it's not going to work. Kel's saying switch to his mobile. He's already switched to his mobile from his laptop. So he's actually like, Professor Gell has done everything. He's done everything to try and make this work. So given that, I'm going to have to talk to him during the week. We're going to have to figure it out. Yeah, I'm really sorry, guys. Really sorry. So I'm going to call Professor Gell after this. He's just signed himself off. Oh, man. Because, Benjamin Robson, you're absolutely right. I would be very keen on hearing Peter's opinion of Lock 0 and opening the Lake Alexandrina barrages. 100%. That's where we were going tonight. Can he hear me? Yes, he could. He could hear me. I could see him reacting to what I was saying, but unfortunately, we just couldn't hear his replies. I'm so sorry, guys. I know a lot of people were looking forward to this. I was looking forward to this. This is honestly, it's one of the thrills of being Topher, of doing what I do, is that I get to talk to these people that are incredible. And tonight was going to be a good night. So, guys, I'm sorry. Okay, we're going to sign off in just a minute, but before I do that, I'm just going to plug one more time. If you could, if you're interested in coming to the premiere of Battleground Melbourne, we are showing it in Camberwell at the Rivoli Cinema on the 23rd of August. If you want to come along, you need to get a ticket, because without a ticket, you ain't going to get in. We are more than halfway sold out. Tickets have only been open for a week. We're already more than halfway sold out. So I've just dropped the link again into the comments. Yeah, James says, darn it, I was looking forward to learning stuff. So was I, man. Like, honestly, so was I. Now, if you can't make it to the Camberwell showing, there are a bunch of other showings. You can find all of the links in this URL here that I'm about to drop in to the chat. Pendulum says, it's because you're drinking wine, bro. Yeah, instead of my usual scotch, I'm drinking wine. That must be what it is. Guys, this hurts. This is the first time this has happened. This hurts. I was desperately looking forward to tonight. Tonight was going to be so good. I'm going to make this happen. This is not the end of interviewing Professor Peter Gell. It might be a couple of weeks before I can get him back on, but we are going to chat. We're going to slow chat. We're going to do it properly. In the meantime, if you can get to the premiere of Battleground Melbourne, fantastic. Now, remember, of course, Battleground Melbourne is actually available to view for free. So this is not about coming to the premiere, etc. It's not about viewing it, right? You can watch Battleground Melbourne. I'm just putting the URL into the chat as well. Battlegroundmelbourne.com. You can watch it for free. It's in 4K. All the audio issues from that early release have all been fixed. It's schmick. It's coming up really, really well. We've won 7 awards internationally so far. We're in 2 more festivals right now that are actually ongoing this week. So hopefully by the end of this week, we'll find out about whether we've won any more awards. So getting together, that premiere event, it's really about actually just being in a room with other amazing people and that vibe and that experience of being together for that. So if you can make it to the premiere, honestly, it's going to be one of those events. That Camberwell premiere at Rivoli Cinemas on the 23rd of August is going to be one of those events that happens once in your lifetime. And there are those who are there and there are those who aren't. So book your tickets now and make sure you don't miss out, because there's less than 200 tickets left. Look, I won't bore you with anything else. I'm so sorry tonight has turned into a bit of a fail, but I will have my chat with Professor Peter Gell, because trust me, you want to hear what he has to say. This is a man of rare integrity in the scientific world. That shouldn't be a statement. Rare integrity. Integrity should be common in science, but it's become rare. And Professor Gell has integrity. He goes where the data leads him. He knows what he's talking about. And he's actually a great communicator as well. Sadly, when his internet and or his microphone aren't working, it's very difficult to communicate. So that's where we are tonight. Guys, thank you. I apologize. This is we've made history in slow chats tonight. This is the first slow chat fail. But you know what? It was always going to happen sooner or later, and turns out sooner rather than later. So here we are. Guys, stay safe, stay well. I've got another video with Rukshan coming out tomorrow, so keep an eye on Rukshan and my pages for another comedy sketch with Rukshan coming out tomorrow. That'll be on my YouTube, and it'll be on Facebook and Instagram and all that sort of stuff as well. And yeah, I look forward to talking to you next week. Next week, I've already booked in Professor Peter Ridd, and I'm going to talk to Professor Peter Gell and see if I can get him the following Thursday. We've got amazing guests lined up already. Not all of them are locked in terms of the date, but we've got a lot of incredible people that have agreed to come on to have a slow chat between now and the end of the year. So if we can't get Professor Gell in the next couple of weeks, we will get him at some point in time. And I promise you the wait will absolutely be worth it. In the meantime, stay well, and we'll talk again soon.